Hi, I'm here with Matthew Upchurch, who is chairman and CEO of Virtuoso. We're here at Virtuoso Travel Week. We're actually here. It's great. It's amazing to see you. I've seen you a few times, but you have held the event this year, and we're going to talk about that and a whole lot more about what's going on with Virtuoso, how this meeting has gone, and the future of luxury travel. A few small topics, and you're going to find out about all that and more on Insider Travel Report. Now, first of all, Matthew, it's, as always, great to see you here. We're here finally. 2 years ago, we were here. It's amazing, huh?
It's really great to be here, and everybody that was able to make here, be able to get here. So many people just couldn't because of border closings and things like that. But it's been really re-energizing. It's been fabulous, and everybody from our partners to our members and advisors, but even the Bellagio staff. One of my favorite things that's happened this whole week is, we've been doing this here at Bellagio for 20 years, and the Bellagio people, employees have been saying, "We're so glad to see you." And my answer has been all week, as glad as you are to see us, we are to see you. We're all in the same business.
And we'll see them tonight for your gala, and I'm sure it'll be great. How many, roughly, what's the attendance here? You told us earlier at the press conference, but for all of those out there?
Yeah, we ended up with about 1,500 in person and just shy of about 2,000 online. And it's been fabulous. We really worked hard to make this a true hybrid event.
With the virtual, yeah.
With the virtual. So we made a lot of investment in making sure that our virtual attendees didn't feel like they were just looking through a keyhole.
I'm actually curious. I'm going to go back and try to look at the virtual just to see what it's like.
And we've been getting a lot of feedback, and just tens of thousands of appointments being done on virtually as well. But we actually had a virtual host. The virtual attendees even got some things that we didn't hear, which is a bunch of behind the scenes things, and most of them had been here before. So it's been fun to create a true hybrid event.
Now, what's the feedback you're getting from those who attended so far?
Well, the number one thing that I've received is thank you. We needed this, right? We needed this. Those of us that were able to be here feel fortunate to do that. It's re-energizing. So many of us are in this business because of what human connection does for us, and it energizes us, and we feed off each other. So that's been great, and then also very pragmatic, right? Meeting with a lot of partners and a lot of people about what can I do in the short term, what can I do in the long term, learning about from all these different destinations. So it's been very powerful.
Well, for those of out there who thought that Virtuoso Travel Week was getting too big, well, we fixed that.
Well, when you had like 3/4 of the world that couldn't arrive, but it's been very powerful. But again, I also got a lot of kudos for what we were able to do virtually last year, and so I think now having the best of both worlds is working really well. And we also took this opportunity, like we always have in the 33 years, every single Virtuoso week for 33 years has always had some sort of evolution, some tweaks, some moving, and we were able to pioneer some things here with the way we did the morning appointments. In the afternoon, we did lounges and cafes and globe-trotting that was over 4 days instead of just one day. Right. So we provided a lot of choice, and it was really powerful to be able to test that with a smaller group.
Well, how is this event going to change I think you're looking at changing your events going forward. What are Virtuoso events? You say you're going to have this event next year, a year from now. We're looking forward to hopefully seeing the Virtuoso Symposium, which usually is in the spring. We're going to have that in October, which is actually technically that anniversary that we missed last year of the renaming of Virtuoso, which I was actually there. You were too, I think.
I was there.
But so that's that. We're hopeful of that. But then you have a lot of other events. So did this whole pandemic and whatever happened, did it change your view, your strategy regarding your events?
Well, yes and no. I mean, one of the things that I've been saying from the very beginning is that disruptions accelerate trends. Mm-hmm. And so on stage in 2019, I said, we spend too much time worrying about, we need to be aware of technology that threatens us, but we also need to focus more on technology that amplifies our strengths. Mm-hmm. And ironically, one of the things I said in 2019 from the opening session is I said, I think we should really consider spending more time on how we could leverage this technology called video conferencing. Little did we know that we would have the world's largest crash course in that.
I know. Well, you knew you were a British. Who knows? But
we were an early adopter. I mean, we were doing it internally, and we had installed Zoom 3 years before last year. But it has to do with, to me, I said that this year that the number one word for this year for us would be hybrid. So to me, we're all working with that, even in our workplaces, right? As people have learned about what's good about not having to commute and work from home and all that, what is the balance between, if you are in person, how do you optimize that experience when you are in person? And then how do you optimize the balance between that and when you're working remotely? Mm-hmm. So that, finding the best of those mixes in everything we do. And I think that's what's happening with our, when we had grown so much bigger, we're looking at, well, how do we manage the mix of who's here? And it's not simple, because it's not, well, you should only be here if you produce X. Because this network and this particular show, one of the things that I'm the most proud of is we led the industry with regards to new talent, career switchers, young people, and all that. And these meetings have been a turbocharger of helping careers get started. So what's that right mix? How do you do it? How are you more scientific about it? How do you measure the results? How do you find the right mix? So both Virtuoso Travel Week. Now we were right before the pandemic. We were about to have a Australia Virtuoso Travel Week.
That's what I remember.
Of almost 1,000 people. Right. What do we do? Are we going to do some of these? We did Virtuoso Travel Travel Week on tour. We during the pandemic we did in-person events in China, in Australia. In between lockdowns. So it's kind of how we're managing the mix of all these tools within the ability to help be more conscious about how we can help our members take their advisors and go up the pyramid of capabilities and production and skill sets.
Now here's a bigger question. Now that we're here and you're talking to all your members, both your agency members, your advisor members, and of course suppliers, what is the health of the Virtuoso Travel Network right now in terms of how they've gotten through the pandemic and what it looks like going forward?
If you would have described what was about to happen and then asked me what do you think the effect on the network would have been, all I can tell you is that what's happened is our network has fared this way better than anything I could have ever probably anticipated. Now, depending on where you are in the world, in Canada, the U.S., government programs, this is why we've been so grateful to have supported ASTA, particularly ASTA PAC and that advocacy. I just want to keep giving a shout out there. So there were programs that absolutely helped us. But overall, I mean, we did have some reduction in the number of advisors. Now, our Latin America region was the one that was hit the hardest because they had no government support, and the average agency down there has a greater ratio of staff to revenue. But overall, for some of the attrition that we had, the other thing that's been impressive is the number of people that have actually sought to become travel advisors in the middle of this crisis.
Yeah, I've heard that story repeatedly. Yeah, it's amazing.
I mean, I've had numerous meetings in this room over the last few days where that, and I think that's also a part of this whole idea of they're calling it the Great Resignation, where it's happening. The Google ads right now on TV are "I want to become a." Right, and filling it in. So it's an interesting dynamic, because I think people are also realizing that, nothing motivates human beings like having something taken away from them that they took for granted. Mm-hmm. And our own research, you look at what our advanced sales are for 22, 23. I quoted the chairman and CEO of Northwestern Mutual about what they had been seeing in financial planning and about how travel had become even more important, right, and how people want to have meaningful lives, and travel is one of the most important vehicles. So I think that we know that the forward nature of this, I think we saw it after 9/11, right? Multi-generational travel, for example, had been kind of moving up. 9/11 happened, and it just went crazy, right? And so I think that this disruption is going to make travel even more valuable than ever, and it certainly has made the role of travel advisor even more important.
Yeah, well, every time there's a crisis, it seems like the travel advisor benefits at least for a time, and then people say, "Oh, there's still travel advisors around," and then we have to go back to the well and say, "Yeah, of course." Now, in terms of the programs that you've introduced recently or at this event, what are some of the ones you want to highlight that are going to really help your advisors get through this? I know there's one, Wanderlust, which you've been talking about for the past 3 years, but you've made additional advancements with that. So if you want to start by talking about that, it'd be great.
Right. Well, first of all, I think that one of the strengths of this network is our focus on luxury and experiential. When an agency joins Virtuoso, when we have the metrics, we absolutely change their luxury index, meaning the percentage and the amount of their business that's luxury. We help refine their book of business, whether at the agency level or the advisor level. We increase the satisfaction of their clients because of the way by the way their travelers are treated, right, and by the way in which the advisor is treated. Right. In other words, how our partners really help them look like rock stars, and they're responsive to them. But the number one way that number one thing that we want to do is we think there's never been a more important historical opportunity to help our members add even more valuable clients. So if you think about the typical 80-20 rule, that top 20%, we think there's never been a better time to help actually create double that number so that you're refining that book of business. As I said in the opening session, there's really only two ways of making more money in this business. You either have to do more business in the same amount of time, quote unquote efficiency, faster, or the value of what you do in that time has to grow. And one of the ways you do that is by elevating the quality of the customers. And I also said, it's also a time right now, if I'm an advisor right now, your best clients want you to succeed. There's never been a better time to get referrals from them, right? And there's also never been a better time to really look at your book of business and decide what clients you don't want to keep, right? And refine your business. So we at Virtuoso, continuing what we've been able to do of creating a consumer preference for Virtuoso advisors and members, and improving people's book of business. And then the other is how we're actually utilizing these structures that we've built around communities that allow advisors to choose what they want to focus on with the right partners and elevate their skill sets in different passion points or destinations and things like that, so that they're able to build those skills faster and deliver more to our partners that are supporting them.
And then, of course, was a few years ago when you created Wanderlust, which is kind of dreaming about travel. It's getting people to sort of plan their, and create customers, which you said for a long time, customers for life. And I guess that's the main goal. But you've done some things to that program this year too, right?
Well, it's very exciting because what we did is when we first came out with Wanderlust, it was this whole idea about multi-trip long-term planning. And it was we're going to get there. But when the pandemic hit, we pivoted to the gamification of travel dreaming. How do you make it more fun? We have data around the program that we put in place over a decade ago called the collaborative travel planning process. And the data from the consumer is that when the traveler is engaged at a different level in the whole kind of dreaming and planning piece, they have a sense of ownership. If you can make it fun and more proactive and things like that, you get better close rates, you get better products, et cetera, et cetera. So that's what we focused on. So what we've done is we've merged Wanderlust from being a separate kind of little app site, and we've integrated it with Virtuoso.com, so that now whether it's a current client or a prospect, every art, we have a really strength on our original content. Well, now those individual stories can be put onto a Wanderlust. An individual cruise can be put on a Wanderlust, et cetera. That's creating an engagement level. And I'll give you a real practical example. For prospecting, we actually had an advisor who had Wanderlust on her website. Somebody that she had never met, never interacted with, whatever, went on her site, set up an account, ended up spending, I don't even know how much time setting up 8 different Wanderlust for 8 different trips. And then when she finally called the advisor and said, "Hi, I've been on your site, I've used your Wanderlust thing, and by the way, I have 8 trips, here they are. by the way, the first one is Peru, and I want to do that. Please, let's book that now. And then let's start sequencing the other 7. Now, you want to talk about powerful, it's efficient, and think about that. It's like, I'm not only giving you a lead, I'm giving you somebody that's already gone through all this thought process about, ooh, if I go here, I'd like to stay at this hotel, or I'd like to do this. But the Wanderlust is just a way of deepening the quality of that interaction with that customer, because they've given you this huge gift, because you already know what they're thinking about, what they're attracted to.
Well, years ago you were talking about, a client for life and things like that, and now this is a way maybe to help you do that. So I think that's if it's a tool to do that, it's going to work. Right?
Well, and it's also very, very powerful. It hasn't changed in 34 years. Mm-hmm. The number one way that advisors get new business is referrals. It has been and will always be. Wanderlust has developed this powerful digital amplification of referrals, because if I start a Wanderlust, I can invite anybody with an email. So if I'm thinking of traveling with friends or family or this, I invite them to my Wanderlust. They get a link that says, here's an invitation from Matthew, the name of the trip, something probably pretty personal. When I accept that, now all of a sudden I'm in that Wanderlust with you. It's a shared experience. But now those people, if they've never heard of the member or the advisor or Virtuoso, now they're like, wow, what is this, right? And it really amplifies the ability to expand your value proposition in a very creative, visual, and digital way.
No, absolutely, and it's the spread, sort of community spread within the luxury travel community of what you can do with a Virtuoso travel advisor. Now, some basic questions. What does business look like for the rest of this year and into 2022, and then even 23 from your point of view?
Well, obviously, it keeps changing.
Yeah,
so here's the way. The first quarter of the year was still pretty bad. It was, the first 3 months was, somewhere down about 80%. We're talking about travel within 2021. It started improving to about 76% by the end of March. Second quarter started improving. There was a huge jump from May to June. So improvement of 20 points as far as being down vis-a-vis 2019, because nobody measures that on 2020, right? So there was a huge July we were hoping to see that July, the Delta variant, whatever, maybe it slowed down a little bit, but that's only half the story, because if you go back to the beginning of the year, that's for travel within 2021. Then you look at travel that's 1 year plus, right? Those numbers are, up, 105%, I mean, those numbers were up significantly, which, as we know, is also a challenge, because here I am an advisor, and I'm booking things that are a year plus out, but where's the beef, right?
Where's no money right now? Yeah.
So, but that's also one of the reasons where more and more of our advisors are, and the conditions are right. More and more advisors, they're either doing retainers, they're doing plan to go fees. Some of them are starting to say, if you want me to move bookings around, I'll have a rebooking fee. There's no one answer, but again, I think it's the refinement of your book of business and having some of that. And of course, I really celebrate and thank all the partners that have done everything they can to accelerate compensation. Because look, we live in a world where our teenagers can exchange money on Venmo in 2 seconds, right? Compensation has to change from the perspective of, it's ridiculous that I have to get paid, X days after travel. If it's final payment and it's non-refundable, we should be paid, right? If there's some reconciliation, like in a hotel or whatever, fine, because it has to be reconciled, but it should be as close to immediate as possible.
No, absolutely. In fact, I've known several suppliers, and now they're going to pay you several times during the course of booking a trip, and that's the best way out. But it is pretty interesting how they've changed it. Now, one of the last questions is, you said earlier about you thought the pandemic really has changed travel for maybe 20 years. In what way, positive, negative, has it focused? I mean, one of the things is, have you refocused on sustainable travel more? What are the ways that the pandemic has changed travel in your view?
Well, two things. The core the core reasons why travel had reached its peak in 2019, right? The best year in the history of the travel industry. All the core reasons are still there. Mm-hmm. The fact that there are 5 generations of people able to travel, because the longevity revolution means that there's going to be literally millions and millions of healthy 80-year-olds. You've got the change of prioritizing experiences over goods. Right. Those trends are all still there. There will be these issues. I do think that health security will actually be something that's more embedded. I mean, think about the changes the cruise lines have done. The interesting thing is, even here, I don't smell as much smoke in the casinos. It smells fresher. Look at there are a number of things I think you're gonna see that are going to be permanent improvements. Who knows exactly how this, whether, some people are predicting that there'll be small outbreaks or things like this throughout, for years to come. We don't all know exactly that's going to happen. But the fundamental is that the desire for travel, when it's been taken away, I think it's going to change for the better, for the desirability of travel. Now, on the recipient side, to your point about sustainability, it is also very important. I've talked to the mayors of Amsterdam and Florence and all this. There is this kind of idea about travel has got to be more responsible. It's got to be a force for good. And luxury clients, the affluent sector has actually grown more affluent. But they've also become more, there's a lot more focus on, I want to give my money to those that are doing something positive. And the one thing that I keep saying to advisors is, when people ask the question, well, are your clients asking about sustainability? I say that's the wrong question. It's a question of leadership. And what I mean by leadership is, you as an advisor have an opportunity to actually lead this conversation, but benefit from it, because we're having we're having examples of consumers that are saying, if you can help me have a fabulous experience, you've got my back, but then make it easy for me to give my money to people that I know are doing something positive, then I'm going to see you in a different light than somebody that didn't help me do that.
Matthew, I want to thank you. Hopefully, I was going to ask you, where are we going to be a year from now? Where do you hope to be? I hope to be right here. I hope you are too.
Well, I hope to be right here. And again, I'm very bullish for all the reasons we had. We still have some maneuvering to do and all that, but I do think that overall, if you look at those trends, and we'll be here, and we'll have Virtuoso travel weeks on tours and pop-ups and all the things that we've been doing for years all over the world.
Matthew, again, thank you. It's great to be here after 2 years. Wonderful to be back. The first event I had canceled was the Virtuoso Symposium, which was a year ago, March, and hopefully we're going to get that in October. We'll see. So far, the plan is right. You're going to be doing the symposium.
Yeah, all systems will go right now. So I mean, we're on the path.
Well, hopefully I'll see you there. If not, I'm sure I'll see you a few other places before then, because we've been seeing each other now twice in person already and virtually a lot of times. So anyway, great to see you again, and I want to thank you for a wonderful conference.
Thank you, James, as always. Thank you, everybody.
I'm James Shillinglaw, and this is Insider Travel Report.